Welcome to Outbound Labs by Predictable Revenue, where we share the results of our prospecting experiments, what we learned along the way, and what it means for your team. Welcome back to Outbound Labs. I'm Colin.
And I'm Lavinia.
As always, hasn't changed. Today is our series summary. So this series, we were really trying to break down Sarah's personalization at scale that was inspired by Beck Holland's approach. And so in this video, we're going to talk about what did we try and learn? What did we try? How did it go? And then at the end of the day, what learnings came out of this? And so if we want to recap, what we were really trying to test and really break down Sarah's method for personalization at scale. And that was essentially finding posts on LinkedIn that had really strong activity, posts from thought leaders, and then trying to identify potential buyers within those threads, reach out to them, LinkedIn, et cetera, and then find the best way to connect with them. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about what were the things what did we try, right? When we look at all of the experiments.
Sure. So overall, really, we wanted to find out where can this method be used most effectively? And when we find an area where it does work, how can we break it down into different stages and find the most effective way to conduct each stage? So for example, we looked at everything from the best way to find posts. Was it through various thought leaders or companies, or was it actually better to go the other way around and find your target prospects first and then look at their engagement? So we went all the way from here, tested each stage up until the outreach stage. And how can we do that different outreach? Was it multi-channel? Was that going to have better results, or was it just using LinkedIn? Or all these different stages we wanted to find, okay, if it's going to work, how can we make it work as well as possible?
Perfect. So in terms of what we tried, it was essentially, we basically split tested the methodology against, in terms of going for a regular LinkedIn campaign where we're not starting with, hey, I saw this post and then commenting on that, versus I saw this post, et cetera. That was a win, right? Yeah. We had a limited sample size, but most of this we're going to have a limited sample size. But I think the results that we saw were pretty encouraging.
Yeah, definitely.
If your audience is on LinkedIn, it's a great way to start a conversation.
Absolutely, yeah.
Perfect. And so the next thing we looked at was, okay, well, how do we deconstruct the post identification, right? We looked at a bunch of different places where we went across, it was a wide spectrum of clients. I think you called it a large
handful and a bit.
Handful and a bit. So we looked at a handful and a bit of our clients, and we said, where's the best place to find these posts? And this one was actually a whiff because we didn't learn. Oh, yeah. Well, we learned a bunch of different times what didn't work. We tested, just looking for posts. We tested the sort of the thought leader approach. We tested groups. We tested hashtags. The results, as if you've watched that video, were not amazing, but you've got to test to learn. And I think I think this is another proof point that pushes us in the direction of, it's not necessarily just about the tactics. It's about where your audience is.
Yeah, definitely.
And so from post identification, then we basically said, okay, well, if we're not going to go super broad and just look for posts, then we're going to start with our target account list, which was Beck Holland's approach initially. And so start with the target account list, plug that into LinkedIn, and then look for posts there. Yeah. And I think what we did was we tried that with a couple of different ones.
Time consuming with few results.
Again, I think reinforcing that point that these are the two clients that we had that didn't have a track record of performance on LinkedIn in the past. And so this is one of those ones where you can take the learnings for what they are. But again, I think it points us in the direction of, if your customers are on LinkedIn, this is a great thing.
Yeah, definitely. And it definitely weighted how much importance there is to understanding the results in the context that they come in. So we could have gone through all these experiments, and where we weren't getting any results, we could just be like, nah, it's the method. It's this approach. It's not working. But instead, this is where we had to take each result into account in the bigger context. So in the bigger context of, as Colin was saying, is this an area that our prospects are active in? Are they active in LinkedIn in the first place? Because if they're not, then you run to a bit of a non-starter. Is this something where we have had positive validation in XYZ area previously? So it really shows that whilst all these experiments do kind of stand alone, they all relate to each other, and they're none are useful without the other one to refer to as well.
And it builds on a previous learning from another Outbound Labs, much earlier when we tested, okay, email versus LinkedIn. And I think one of the pieces was if you're not getting great response rates with a target audience, LinkedIn isn't going to help you.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Like even if they are active, if you're not getting results on LinkedIn, the chances of you getting results on not getting any results on email and getting great results on LinkedIn is probably not much. But if you already are getting some results on email and you're showing, and the segment is showing signs of, hey, this is something that makes sense for me, this is something I'm interested in, and your audience is on LinkedIn, then I think that could be it's a great channel to do more, which sort of leads us into the last piece that we tested, which was a LinkedIn only approach versus a multi-pronged email, phone, and LinkedIn approach. And so this one was really interesting. The sample size was super small.
Yeah.
Right. We admit that we're not. I've said multiple times we're not going to publish these results in Science. So in terms of scientific rigor, yes,
we do our best.
Yeah, we're doing our best. There's so many elements that can't be controlled. It's not possible. We're not getting grant funding for this, so we're trying to run some experiments and see what we can learn. But again, I think this was another one of adding multiple channels. So it's sort of a bit of a right turn in terms of, because what we did was we looked at clients that we looked at a client that had already had success on LinkedIn. So we know the audience is there. And then in this case, what we had done was compared single channel versus multi-channel. And how did we do?
So with multi-channel, we did get a booked meeting. And bearing in mind, we only targeted 30 prospects using just LinkedIn and 30 prospects with multi-channel. 1 in 30 prospects that we reached out to is pretty solid rate. So again, as through all of our results, this gives us that bit of information we need, and taken in the context of all the results, it's pretty positive and it's a pretty promising way to go.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like I need to add that you're going to see people on LinkedIn that are getting 30% conversion rates from LinkedIn message to booked meeting. And it's going to vary. Like the people that are posting are sharing one-off, really, truly exceptional results. We're trying to be very fair about sharing all of the results and not just cherry picking the good stuff, which is why this series, we included and shared so much of our failure. And I think one of the reasons why we see these outliers are these people that are getting amazing results, these people that get 20 or 30% response rates, or these people that get 10%, 20% conversion rates on their LinkedIn messaging. I think a lot of it's going to have to do with the client or the customer that the client, the company that you're working for.
Absolutely.
Right? Like we did campaigns for Uber Eats when they launched across North America, and we had insane response rates. We were getting 30% meeting booking rates, which was it was just insanity because they had such a great brand, because they had such amazing product market fit. Everybody that we emailed was like, "Oh yes, we know exactly why you're emailing. Wow, that sounds amazing. Yes, let's have a conversation."
Yeah,
and even still, it was Uber, and we still got the majority of people saying nothing, right? Like there's still, I shouldn't say nothing, but if we had 30% of people that turned into a meeting, that's still 70% that said no or said nothing, right? And so my last sort of piece of advice is don't compare yourself to Uber, or don't compare yourself to the Ubers of the world. Don't hold your SDRs accountable to results that were achieved in somebody else's organization, because there are so many other variables that are in play. And so it's never a fair apples to apples comparison, even when you're comparing them to our videos. That's why we're trying to share as much as possible, because what works for us is not going to work for you, or it might work great, it might work better, it might work worse. But what we're hoping to inspire here is for you to think about that, take that into consideration, and run some tests.
Yeah, and not be demotivated if you don't get results that are worth sharing on LinkedIn the first time, because you probably won't get those kind of crazy results the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, etc. time. It may take you a good 20 attempts of learning from one experiment, making a small tweak, running it again, and doing that cycle over and over again. And that's when you really start to hit on that goal. So you have to be persistent, keep going, but it is worth it. And this just goes to show, whilst on the face of it, if you take individual experiments well, what can you really take from it? On the face of it, maybe not that much, but when we look at them a whole and look at all these results together, we've got some pretty solid learnings about this method.
100%. And keep in mind, we're a year into this journey.
Yeah.
And we weren't publishing any of the, I mean, we did end up publishing some of those results, but the stuff from the first cycle, you know, like it took us a while to find our footing. So keep that in mind. We weren't just magically this good. And all of a sudden, all the experiments were rocking and rolling. And I've been wanting to make a Jurassic Park reference the entire time. And I've resisted until this last video. I just want to save the best for last. Because if you remember the raptor scene, the first one where they're still like in their pen, they're jumping up and they're hitting the electrified wire. And I can't remember what character asked, but they're like, what are they doing? Like they just keep electrocuting themselves. And she's like, no, he's testing. They're trying to find a weakness. They're always trying to find a way out, even if it hurts them. Right. And so let's take that raptor mentality and let's keep pushing. Let's keep testing, even if it hurts, even if it doesn't work. Like those raptors didn't find a way out of the cage until the power got out. But once they did, they were in them. They had created the habit of constantly testing. So when the power did go out, they knew right away and they were out there eating tons of people. So my recommendation to you, always be testing, stay hungry, eat lots of people, think like a raptor.
Bye for now.
Bye for now. See ya.
On that note.
And so we're going to take not a little break, but we're going to, we've got to wait for this next cycle to wrap up. So it's going to be a little bit of a gap in between the next videos. But rest assured, if you want to make sure that you get notified when we come back with the next series, there's a little rectangle at the bottom of the screen. It's somewhere. Hit the subscribe button. If you want to be notified and super annoyed by our faces when we launch new videos, hit that bell icon and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching.
All right.
Bye.
Bye for now.